What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. If I sound a little different today, that is because my cat decided to break my microphone. So while I wait until the new one comes in, we are just using the straight up computer microphone. So it might sound a little bit different, but it should be fixed by the next video. Anyways, welcome back again to another episode where the Red Sox have dropped a series, because in this series, the Red Sox lost both games to the Atlanta Braves in pretty bad fashion. We're going to talk about the bad, we're going to talk about the ugly in this series, but I also want to see if there are any positive takeaways we can have about this Atlanta Braves series regarding the Boston Red Sox. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the bad, of course, we're going to talk about the ugly, most definitely, and we're going to try and see if there are any positive takeaways. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button as well. It helps out a ton and would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this video. Let's get into it. Let's start with the offense in this series, because if we want to talk about positive takeaways, the most positive takeaways can be found on the offensive side, and one of those positive takeaways is Christian Arroyo, who since coming off the IL has been an absolute lightning rod to this offense. He had a home run in this series as well as an RBI double and another hit. He has been fantastic coming off of that IL, and again, like I said in the last series recap, it feels so good to have some production back at second base. We haven't had that since Trevor Story went down, so Christian Arroyo truly filling that role right now has been amazing. Hopefully people on the IL battling back and hopefully coming back soon are taking notes, like Story and like Kike Hernandez, because to have all three of them back and producing would be a fantastic sign for this team, especially going into 2023. The second positive takeaway I had from this series for the offensive side of the ball was Tommy Pham, who has been an absolute spark plug, especially in that leadoff role since coming to the Red Sox. I've really been liking what Tommy Pham has been bringing to the table. In this series alone, he had 2 home runs, 1 in each game. And again, I really like what he's bringing to the table. I think that this was a really good addition at the deadline so far. Things can obviously change. It's a small sample size. But if he continues to play like he's playing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox decide, hey, maybe we should bring this guy back for a little bit, play the 4th outfield role next year, especially because he's not a super expensive guy. He's in the $5, $6, $7 million range. And this is a guy who can either play as a 4th outfielder or be an everyday outfielder. That's what he's showing right now. And speaking of the outfield, I do also have to shout out Jarren Duran in this video. He hit a home run in this series as well, a solo shot in the first game. And for as much as we crap on Jarren Duran, especially after his offense dried up a little bit and the fact that he's just abysmal at center field, I still see some potential there with his swing. I think that he does have some ability to put the ball in play really, really well, and with that speed and getting on base combined with the sometimes power, there is something there. The problem I have with Jarren Duran right now is I don't know if he'll ever be able to fully put that together at a major league level. I really hope he does, because I think he'd be a ton of fun to watch, but I'm still concerned with what he can do at a major league level. As for everyone else though, there wasn't a ton of offense to talk about, but I am going to include JD Martinez in this recap, because while he is still ice cold, and I think there is still way more to be wanted from a JD Martinez type player, he was able to get across 2 runs in this series, 1 on a single and 1 on a sac fly. Again, still a lot to be desired, but at least he's still producing a little bit for this team. And that's kind of it in terms of positives for the offense. Notably not on this list are Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, who make up our big 3, including JD Martinez. They only had 2 hits combined in this series. But if we're talking good takeaways, we got to talk about the fact that role players on this team are stepping up, and stepping up in a big way. Tommy Pham, Christian Arroyo, guys like that who normally aren't the face of the offense have been the face of the offense in the past 2 series. The problem with that is that the big 3 just simply aren't doing enough. Rafael Devers had a home run in the Kansas City Royals series, but he also only had 3 or 4 hits there. He only had 1 hit in this series, and we really need him to come back into true form. Xander, who hasn't been a power hitter all year, hasn't been making the contact that we would like out of him either. So it's kind of feeling like this team all year has moments where you see these positives, but then something else is immediately negative. That's kind of what it's felt like all year. There's really only been like 2-3 weeks this year where this Red Sox team has been fully cohesive and working together as one unit. But all in all, I would say the offense in this series wasn't terrible. I think that they put themselves in a position offensively to win games. Unfortunately, the pitching in this series was a different story, so let's talk about it. Rich Hill got the ball in game 1 and kind of really screwed us for the second game in this series. He only was able to go 4 innings, allowed 4 runs, and did not strike out a single person, and I'm really over the Rich Hill experiment at this point. It was fun at the beginning of the year. He was really stressful to watch, but was doing really well, but it's clear now that he just simply can't compete against elite offenses anymore. He got washed by the Astros, he got washed by the Braves, and I just don't think that his pitch repertoire facing a legitimate team like the Braves or the Astros works even slightly, and he really did screw us for the second game because our bullpen had to go 7 innings in this game, and we're going to talk about the bullpen in a second. But as for Rich Hill, definitely not happy with his performance. I haven't really been happy with his performance since he came back from the IL, so we'll have to see more out of Rich Hill. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he's going to go anywhere, especially with the injuries on this team. We could probably expect him to be in the starting rotation until the end of the year. As for the second game of this series, Nick Pavetta got the ball, and Nick Pavetta actually had a pretty good game. Minus that one bad pitch to Marcell Ozuna, he would have had a really great game. He ended up going 6 innings, allowing 3 and striking out 5. And again, besides the Marcell Ozuna home run, he didn't let up any other runs in that game, and 3 runs is definitely enough to keep this team in ball game. The problem with Nick Pavetta this year is just he simply is not consistent. He's had runs like this where he does really well against good teams, and then he goes out and gives up, what, 4 or 5 runs to the Kansas City Royals. It hasn't been a consistent, well-rounded Nick Pavetta that we were hoping to see at the beginning of this year. All in all, I don't think the starting pitching really had many positives. I think we could take away Nick Pavetta's individual performance as positive, but if we're talking overall, I don't think there was a ton of positives there. And speaking of no positives, the bullpen in this series was not good. They had to use most of their reliable relievers, and by reliable, I mean the only 2 reliable relievers we have right now in Schreiber and Whitlock. In that first game, Whitlock gave up a run, but either way, the injuries and the fact that Rich Hill could not go deep into the game kind of screwed them for the second game. You had to throw out Caleb Ort in the late innings of these games, and he gave up a run and a couple of runs every single time he came out. Darwinzon Hernandez is one of the only 2 lefties in this bullpen, and we used Austin Davis in the first game, so he had to come out in the second game. He gave up some runs. It just never ending with this bullpen. It feels like injuries have really played a factor into this bullpen, like it has in all this team, but you can really see it in that bullpen. It just wasn't a good series all around. Really, the only key takeaways positively we can take from this series was that Sawamura has really come down back to earth after he shot up into the atmosphere with his ERA. He's actually been a reliable-ish reliever on this team. I wouldn't put him in the Schreiber-Whitlock out category, but he's probably in the tier underneath that at this point. I think me just constantly pooping on him in these recap videos eventually got to his head. I'm taking full credit for the return to Sawamura. We can also look at Nick Pavetta, like I said, in a vacuum in his performance. I think that it was well worth a win, just simply couldn't get there. So if we're looking at this series in a positive light, we could talk about the role players. We could talk about some of these bullpen pieces really emerging as reliable. The Braves are one of the most elite pitching staffs and offenses in this game. To get more than 4 runs in each game is definitely a positive going forward, and to only let up 3 runs by one of our starting pitchers is another positive. However, I think the real negative in this series was the bullpen, which continues to be a sore spot on this channel, and it continues to be a sore spot throughout Red Sox Nation. I think it's about time that we start rifling through some of these AAA guys who have been decent in AAA, just start cycling them in and out, at least until our bullpen is healthy, because at this point, to be honest with you, it doesn't really matter. We're not getting a lot of production out of the bullpen anyways. It can't get much worse than what it is now, so we might as well try out some of these guys, and I think that that may be on the horizon, especially with the next couple of series, because you've got a 1-game series against the Orioles, and you got a 3-game series against the Yankees. The Red Sox right now have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. After these 2 series, really, with the Baltimore Orioles only being 1 game, you could be completely at 0. If you lose 3 out of 4 of these games, you're going to be 6, 7, 8 games back of a wild card spot, and truly that is going to be the real end of this season. So after those 2 series, we possibly could start seeing a lot of AAA guys get cycled through just to see how they do in a major league setting. All in all though, again, I'm trying here. I'm trying to pull out the positives of these series and see, hey, maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, that light is very, very dim right now. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of this series? What do you guys think of the state of the Red Sox? Has it changed for any of you? Any of you guys who are positive, or are you officially negative now? Any of you guys who are negative, is there any positives you can take from this series? Let me know all your thoughts on this Red Sox team down below. As always, if you've made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like I said, if you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. You also made it to the end of the video, so you might as well hit that sub button. You also might as well hit that like button as well. Like I said, it helps out a ton and would mean a lot to me. One more thing, if you really enjoyed this video, a huge help to me would be to share this with a friend or family member who loves the Red Sox as much as you do. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you, hopefully sounding better, in the red seats.